Well, hello there, my fellow miners and crafters. Good times with Scar here, bringing you my October Halloween build, where we're going to build the house in front of you, inspired by the Haunted Mansion, where we're going to take a few elements from the Haunted Mansion and a few elements from its original inspiration houses, put it together to make one super spooky Antebellum house. So let's get this new series underway. Alright, and welcome to our very spooky Bayou biome where we are going to build the Haunted Mansion. So, what we're going to do is we're going to take inspiration from the Disneyland Haunted Mansion and some other Antebellum Style houses that the Imagineers actually used, who created the Haunted Mansion, and create our spooky Haunted Mansion here in this biome. So we're going to take some inspiration. We're not going to recreate lines and stretching rooms, but only give the impression from those houses and place it in a setting that might be real. It might be a real place with people actually living in it. So that's kind of our theme a little bit here. The Antebellum style is not so much an architectural style, but it's more of a place, kind of a time period about 30 years preceding the Civil War. Its design is kind of a Greek revival, classic revival, or federal style. The houses are very boxy, very symmetrical, with symmetrical windows and balconies and different things like that, which lends itself really well to the Minecraft environment with boxes. So this is going to be really, really cool, and I'm really excited to bring this design to you guys. So if you're excited for it, definitely leave a rating, and if you know somebody who might enjoy following along and watching us build here, definitely share it with them. So let's take a look at our palette. Now our palette is made up of white quartz, because we are trying to go for that kind of white color that the Haunted Mansion was painted in. We have our columns here, and that is kind of our Greek style columns, some small detail blocks here, and our porch, our steps, and my favorite of all in this palette here, and that is the spruce leaves, which we are going to use as our wrought iron stuff. So I think that's really original and cool to use this as a kind of wrought iron and make up our balconies. We also have the birch wood for decking and the green stained clay for shutters. So let's get started here. And the first thing we're looking at here is a basic layout. So from that block right across there and all the way down is 32 blocks across. And this is 24 long. So that is how this is kind of laid out so far. And then we have that spaced out by 15. So 15 and 15, and then 2 blocks in the center. All right, so let's get started here. So like I was saying, we're taking some inspiration from the Haunted Mansion. It's kind of a tribute to it a little bit in a way. So I'm not so much want to create the Haunted Mansion, you know, block for block or something along those lines, but almost kind of be inspired or pay tribute to it a little bit for a fun Halloween build. We're not going to so much, you know, like I said, really recreate it, because the Haunted Mansion is actually 2 boxes kind of fused together in the middle, and there's a lot of kind of elements that kind of actually take it away from that Antebellum style. So we're trying to stay a little bit more true to that by really keeping it in that boxy feel. The Haunted Mansion, like I said, is actually 2 fused boxes for the show elements that go within the building. So that's kind of what we're trying to stay away from in that design. Also, we're going to do a back that's unique, and left side that's also, or right side, I mean, dyslexic of course, the right side here, which is unique too. So the areas of the Haunted Mansion you might recognize are some of the facade in the front and a little bit on the back. Now, the original house that the Imagineers used for inspiration for the Haunted Mansion was the Shipley-Lydecker House that was in Baltimore. And we're going to take elements from that house and infuse it into here also. So a lot of really fun kind of tributes in this design. Okay, so we're going to go from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, wonderful. And then I'm just going to run this out here a little bit. So no particular way at the moment, just starting up our porch a little bit. It's just going to take a little bit to kind of figure out how exactly we want to do this design at the moment. So I think I'm going to go right here, and I'm going to go right there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Perfect. Perfect. That lined up perfect. So how we're going to do this is, I don't know yet. I'm still trying to figure that out. So we want the house to have a decent sized porch. So let me kind of get in here a little bit and count some stuff out a little bit. Let's count some things out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm actually going to back off our pillar and put it right. Oops, that's not a pillar. There we go. And then I'm going to put it right there. Oops. There we go. That's how we want it. So we want that back 1, and then that's 7 from the wall. So wall 7. Okay, perfect. Nice to meet you, wall. It's like, wall, this is 7. 7, this is the wall. Okay, so now we are going to space this out once again 4 blocks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm going to do that on this side. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Place that right there. Wonderful. We now have that all kind of lined up. So like I said, we're kind of working on the porch to start with. So we're working on the porch to kind of get a feel for the front of the house, kind of getting that done. So the Shipley-Lydecker House in Baltimore, which no longer stands, and there's only really one known photo of it. And when they were doing conceptual work for the Haunted Mansion, an Imagineer by the name of Ken Anderson actually used that house for the original sketch for the Haunted Mansion. It was very spooky. It had a lot of, kind of dilapidated design a little bit, but Walt was adamantly against having any Haunted Mansion have kind of a facade of, being worn of any kind. So it's actually very interesting that, Walt Disney, who, of course, built Disneyland, that was his thing. That was his baby. He didn't want anything to be dilapidated at all in the park. He wanted it to be pristine on the outside, and he said, we'll let the ghosts on the inside take care of it, because he was so against having anything be, like I said, dilapidated on the outside, because he was trying to compete with all the fairs and the carnivals at that time, which were messy and always run down. He wanted Disneyland to be unique, the shining pillar on the hill there that people knew of a high standard of cleanliness and well kept. And if you were to put a Haunted Mansion in there all dilapidated, people wouldn't think he was taking care of it. You wouldn't see that with today's Imagineers designing buildings, because, they've built Haunted Mansions that are dilapidated and stuff like that now. But at the time, he was very concerned with people thinking that he wasn't taking care of the Haunted Mansion. So that's why Disneyland's Haunted Mansion is always well kept, well maintained on the outside. And the ghosts take care of the inside. That was the deal arranged. All right, so next we are going to work on our pillars. So that is 1, and then we're going to go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Wonderful. So that's how high we're going to bring each of our pillars up, and then we'll just match that on each other side. So the Haunted Mansion of almost any attraction at Disneyland has the most interesting history, being that they completed the facade, and it was almost a decade later before the ride even opened. So there was this kind of spooky facade. So the Haunted Mansion on the outside was complete, but people could only just look through the fence at it and wonder what could possibly be in there. They had a lot of rumors that used to fly that, workmen had died and the site was closed off and stuff like that. But it was really that the Imagineers, the creators of the attractions, were actually busy working on the World's Fair at the time, which gave them actually more time to come up with better ideas instead of just a walkthrough, which was originally going to be. All right, so that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So yeah, the Haunted Mansion originally was going to be just a walkthrough attraction. And some Imagineers then were, Imagineer by the name of Raleigh Crump and Yale Gracie, and they would come up with little gags and little storylines that the guests would walk through the mansion, and they would go into a room, and there would be some type of apparition of a ghost, and then they would, the guests would move on to another section, and it, what I believe is why there's actually 2 stretching rooms, because that kind of predates the moving attraction, with the Doom Buggies, which is the ride vehicle that you ride in. The stretching rooms were actually part of the walkthrough, and that's why there's 2, because they were very concerned about capacity issues of people walking through in groups, that they couldn't, get enough people going through the attraction at a time in the day. So that's how kind of that Omni-Mover design was built, that the Doom Buggies are. So the Doom Buggies are the ride vehicle you get in, and it's continuous moving, so it's continuously moving, kind of eating up people. And that's kind of why they call it the people eater, people mover, different things like that, because these design of an omni mover is this continuous moving vehicle, and people are just easy to just step right on, and you're off, and it just never stops unless a guest needs to have more time getting on, like myself. And yeah, so there's a little history, a little fun history about Disneyland. I love history about Disneyland. I've always wanted to be an Imagineer myself, and I learn what I can here or there, and hopefully you guys have enjoyed some of that. So give me 1 second here. Let me kind of catch my breath real quick, and I'll be right back. All right, and welcome back. So let's start working on our second story balcony. So of course this is 7 blocks, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then above that we're going to start here. So on the 8th block up here we're going to start working on that. That's why I have cut out this section right here, so it helps us kind of line up things, keep things all lined up and symmetrical, because that's the way we like it. So let's get that going a little bit. A few things on that original inspiration for the Haunted Mansion, the Shipley-Lydecker House in Baltimore. Like I said, there's only really one photo known of that house, and so some of the inspiration for this house, like I said, was used for that. So when I looked at it, we're going to use the top kind of cupola thing at the top of the house. We're going to use that design instead of the one at Disneyland, and a few other elements from that house to try to kind of fuse the two together. And I think it would be fun someday to make like a replica of the Disneyland Haunted Mansion, really, get into all those small details, and I think that would be really fun too. But this house isn't that. This one's more of kind of a what it might look like in real life, if there really were people living in there, that maybe there was some ghosts, living in there, but maybe they didn't know to what extent yet. What I find interesting about the Haunted Mansion, and it is something that current Imagineering doesn't really do with a lot of attractions, and let me just make sure we're good, is the Haunted Mansion is more an experience than telling a story. It's more of an experience, walking through, or not, riding through an attraction, and it's more of you experiencing that scene than really telling you a detailed narrative. And it's something the Imagineers did a lot in the past, and it's not so much done now. Whereas, you go in there and there's not really a big story. Now, there are story elements to it. We can get to that in another episode, but there is more, it's more of an experience, more of like, all these different ghosts and, experiencing what it might be like to walk through a haunted mansion coming alive around you for a swing and wig. So I don't know. I just find that interesting, and that Imagineers of now don't really do that as much. It's more like, oh, we're going to retell a story, we're going to use existing IP, stuff like that. I kind of miss that storytelling a little bit. That was more of kind of a Mark Davis style experience, was that. Less story, more experience, more you experiencing the show that they're trying to tell you, by not feeding you a storyline, but giving you the impressions of different things. It's just something fun to think about. All right, so let's just kind of wrap up these columns a little bit. There we go, and get that down. So I don't know if any of that is interesting to you guys, but it is to me. Maybe there's some people out there that might find that kind of interesting, some of the little story tidbits. I hope. There we go. And if I got any of them wrong, you can definitely let me know, because I'm always open to learning new things. There we go. So that's what I was hoping. Maybe you guys aren't maybe super Disney fans like I am, but you might find it interesting to learn new things, like I always do. I love to learn new things. Especially from people who are passionate of particular subjects and different things. I love learning from, I might not be, super passionate about that or something, but I like learning from those people, because you can just feel how much they care and about what they're talking about. And so I always like hearing or learning from those types of people. There we go. And fly back over here. Wonderful. All right. That is looking very, very good. So from here now, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Awesome. So now we're kind of getting this facade built on the side here and looking super, super good. Still shadow glitches in 1.8, which is super disappointing. And let's just wipe away the rain. There we go. Goodbye, rain. So for the landscape out here, I want to do kind of a graveyard. I want to do the tomb that is actually the exit of the attraction. Now, in some of the lore behind the Haunted Mansion, there actually is a little bit of story. Like the original story was, it was of a sea captain, built it for his new bride. And his bride later learned that the captain was a pirate, and she killed herself when she found out this news. And you know, some say that, you know, the ghost host is that captain, or the guy hanging in the stretching room may be the captain. But for the most part, the Haunted Mansion has no story, really, no overarching story, and it's just a retirement home. So you know, there is some story to it with a Master Gracie element and stuff like that. But for the most part, at least most official storylines are that it's a retirement home for the spooky ghosts of the world. There we go. And let's just finish up this section right there. There we go. So hopefully you can start to kind of see how this kind of Antebellum style is starting to come out. Very boxy, very symmetrical. Just the way we like it, by the way. All right, and let's do another count here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then once again, we'll bring this out to here. There we go. Perfect. There we go. Let's get that up there. And let's double check this. Perfect, perfect, perfect. We are doing awesome. So I always like to start the facades in my builds. So just to kind of give you guys the impression of what we're going to do, because the facade of the house, the very front, is always the most decorative. And it kind of gives you a sense of, oh yeah, I can see what you're going with, you know, with this detail, that detail. And so that's why I always like to go with the facade first. It might not be the best way of doing it, especially when trying to come up with ideas, because you want to start with the basic boxes and shapes of it and then kind of work from that, kind of similar to painting. Kind of, you know, kind of want to box in a painting is the word for that. But when I do a video like this, I like to start with a few details so you guys can kind of see like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing there. I see how that's going to be. That'll be pretty cool. All right, there we go. Wonderful. And look at that. We are starting to get this done, and it is starting to look awesome. So I'm just doing a couple windows to get started with. So one thing you can do here is to line these up is go from behind and then go 2, 3, 4, and then fly over here and do that on this side like that. So it's just an easy way of kind of lining up the two windows, especially when you want to do something symmetrical. There we go. And we'll fly on over here. Very good. And then 2, 3, 4. And then we'll do that again right here. And then carve out that window like so. Awesome. Yeah, that's looking really sweet. So of course right here, we're going to do another door. Now this is when things start to divert from the actual Haunted Mansion's design. Now the Haunted Mansion design is... So what it is it has another door right here, which is what brings you into the foyer, and it brings you into the stretching room from there. But we're not going to use those designs. We're going to take that out and just replace it by a nice big window. And we're just going to do a big door right here, because this is supposed to be a house that's in real life, that real people live in, and they're not going to go through that little door over there. So that's only because it's needed for the show of the ride. And there we go, guys. I think that's a good place to stop here. We're going to continue this in just another day or two. We'll start up our second episode, and I really hope you enjoyed this and want to continue to see this series grow and evolve till we complete this house. And well, guys, this has been Good Times with Scar, and I always really appreciate you guys taking the time to watch my videos. And if you believe the videos are the rating, that would be much appreciated. And until next time, we'll see you later. And don't forget to follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Corner, big, nice, beautiful windows throughout the house looking out at the ocean. And yeah, so now we can get a look at this amazing chandelier hanging down. Now this chandelier was kind of inspired by jellyfish. So it's just like a jellyfish hanging over our living room.